talked about Group D, the so-called group of life. It was a conversation about who could take first.
Don't underestimate, can never hesitate. Gotta be better than good if I'ma get the great.
PowerOfEvil jumps out to get vision. Double lift, the one who's caught out yet again.
Misfits, the underdogs in this game. They're gonna get the upset win. They're gonna get the game.
Rise up.
If I just put that one bad game behind me and I just look forward, then we should be able to win.
That time is near, you must face your fears. I'm Curry with the shot, it's my golden year.
That's gonna do it, Flowers. Not a coordinated play by Flashos in that dive.
MMD's gone, Betty's gone. Flash Wolves' chances of a win in week number 1 are gone.
虽然上周我们是全输，但是我们接下来的比赛我们都会全力以赴。
Only one winner, yeah I know it. I gotta give it my all, I can't blow it.
因为经过第一招我们状态调整过来之后，我觉得第二招是很大概率是可以影响这两支队伍的，我们会第一小组出线。
Rise up, never run down, never go back, never gonna run. There can only be one. Blood, sweat, and tears all together. Keep pushing.
There's no clear leader. It can be anyone's group to win.
Come on.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Wuhan, China for an action-filled day in the world's group stage. Here, of course, you see the fans as they were outside the stadium getting ready to cheer on their favorite teams. Misfits behind the stage, getting ready for a big matchup against the Flash Wolves first up, and of course, making their push for the quarterfinals. Hello, everyone. I'm James Ash Patterson, joined by Indiana Frosker and Black, Alberto Crumbs Rangifo, and Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler, our closest group coming into the day. Are you ready for another 6 games of craziness?
Definitely ready, James. As you said, them coming in tied, also with the relative strength that we've seen in the games where they qualified with, this is definitely up in the air.
Very much so. It was a big day for the LPL yesterday, though, as Royal Never Give Up managed to get the first seed into the quarterfinals after beating Samsung Galaxy in the final game of the day.
And we finally got to see what made RNG such an explosive and exciting team domestically in the LPL. This fast-paced, quick, early game style. MLXG threw the gauntlet. He pulled out his Lee Sin in tandem with Let Me's Rumble, and they went ham.
Not just fast-paced, but the coordination in the team fights is so scary that if you are a team in Group D, that value of first seed goes up exponentially because you do not want to be facing RNG.
A gutsy Baron call to take the game, but Kobe, what that means is Samsung Galaxy, having lost both their teams to RNG, is now the second seed and will theoretically play tougher opponents in the quarterfinals.
That's definitely true. I mean, people still don't want to draw Samsung Galaxy, so even if you have that reward of getting first seed, then it's a little bit scary there because both of those teams are strong.
Absolutely. Well, yesterday's results mean that it will be both Royal Never Give Up and Samsung Galaxy advancing from Group C. Over in Group D, 3 teams are 2-1, while the Flash Wolves need to turn things around after losing all of their games last week. We'll see what they can do today as they face off against Misfits Gaming in the first game of the day before Team WE get a chance to avenge their loss against TSM last week. The teams will play 3 games each before we get 2 new quarterfinalists at the end of the day. Let's go ahead and break down the competitors on stage today, starting with Misfits Gaming, a team that played in Challenger a year ago. And now they find themselves on the world stage with a solid shot at quarterfinals.
And the biggest thing about this squad for me are just the superhuman performances by the individual players. Hansama went nuts on the Xayah. PowerOfEvil in this game single-handedly shut down TSM with some gorgeous flanking play. So it's just the sum of all of its parts coming together for Misfits.
Not just that, this team last week was the team that we looked at continuously improving, and so add that to a team that prepares very well. This is a very scary team that has already perhaps started drafting compositions against very specific opponents.
Losing their first game of the week last week, and then as you mentioned, winning the next 2. They're up against Flash Wolves first, perhaps the easiest matchup that they have of the day. Kobe, if they can start off on the right foot, we're looking at a very scary European squad here.
I think this group, as we said before, because each of them can make moves, it's definitely going to be scary for anyone going up against them. Maxlore is one of the things that I wanted to pinpoint for this team. team because he's been able to adapt his game due to the circumstances that come up in each individual performance. You know, bot lane is low. Hey, we're diving double lift over and over and over. And that's how they got their big victory that surprised a lot of people, you know, versus TSM.
It's also going to be a great gut check for how dangerous the Flash Wolves still are, as well as Misfits. You know, what type of form are the Misfits coming in, but what type of form are the Flash Wolves still coming in? They have to win all of their games if they want to make a race for it, but that doesn't mean that they can't play Blue Shell right at the end.
Oh, absolutely. They're a scary team here on this day of Worlds. We saw Royal Never Give Up advance yesterday, and now Team WE look to become the second team from China to move on to the quarterfinals in front of a home crowd.
I actually have WE as the strongest team in this group. They have actually way more game time than anybody else. If you count the play-in stage, I think that they have drafted quite well so far. And being home crowd favorites always plays into your part. You can hear the crowd that really loves this team. I mean, there's signs everywhere for each member.
I think the strongest point you bring up there is the good drafts, because we were just going over a lot of the VODs, and the drafts for a lot of the teams in this group have huge question marks. I'm really interested to see if those change over the break, though, right? Because they have had a lot of time to review, and that's definitely an area that a lot of these teams can make up a lot of ground.
Frostgarden, I know you're not so hot, though, on WE. Can you explain to me why or what your reservations are about this team?
It's kind of the same reason why I was very reserved about RNG. I wasn't seeing domestically what made them such a huge success. We've seen a lot of game time and a lot of footage from WE. They went through play-ins, now they're contesting through groups. They're trying to get that first or second place seed. And so far, we haven't seen these really beautiful coordinated team fights. I disagree with Crumbs. I think there has been massive holes in a lot of their drafting. And then that big explosive, you know, X factor when CA grabs the Lucian and he solo kills Faker, we're not seeing that either that we saw at MSI. So for me, it's like the three factors for Team WE to be a success haven't shown up yet.
But Frost, you have to remember, this Group D, the Group of Life, this is the kids' table. WE are the big guys here. They're the oldest ones sitting
Big
here.
kids at the
So when
table.
you look at them compared to the other two members that are 2-1, I think that WE actually have been outdrafting them, have been having a better priority in the meta. Janna, first pick Janna for the entire playing stage. They have just
get me off
loving
first
this
pick Janna.
Nobody has seemingly any other value of this pick that
the
has
adults
so many
table
ways.
is overrated anyway.
Well,
It's just a bunch
the
of
Koreans
politics
are
and
there. That's
religion
why it's the
talk.
adults
It's
table.
way more fun to be at the kids table. Next up, it's TSM, who are hoping to finally find international success in their 7th World Championship.
So I'm a little bit hot and cold on Team WE, but I'm actually pretty hot and heavy on TSM. I really like what I see from them. Yes, their early game has been slow,
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
but their team fighting is so much crisper. Other than that game against the Flash Wolves where maybe it got a little bit wonky, and yes, PowerOfEvil did get great flanks, but you know that was more of a significant of the draft. You know, having Nami, not having Lulu, not having Janna, I think really exposed Doublelift and left them without a lot of options. But otherwise, I think their team fighting is so much stronger. I see you.
Probably, yeah, I was going to say.
Than any other team in
The
this
problem
group.
with that situation is that TSM had the power to change that. They last banned Varus instead of banning the Janna when Lulu was already
It's a
off the
team
table.
fighting.
And there so many other things came up, like the trades that they went off. I mean, Bjergsen actually Syndra ulted a LeBlanc clone. There are a lot of things beyond what everyone points to of, oh, Sven has died a lot early game, you know, and he's trying to get this vision around River. There are a lot of other things that have been giving fans pause.
Exactly. It's not just other things. When I look at TSM, and the reasons why I have some reservations about them is that you look at all 3 games, they did not make a single proactive move. They were just resting on their laurels the entire time, waiting
that's
to
this
react to their
meta.
opponent. That's not the meta. You have to. They had opportunities, Frost. They never took them.
But even more so, what this boils down to, right, is what of these issues has actually been identified by the teams themselves, and what have they done to fix those issues coming into week 2? Again, you're looking at Fnatic from week 1, and you're saying they don't stand a chance. But if they go and look at their VODs, just as we have done, identify some of those issues and actually affect change.
But Dash, if I recognize that I have a crippled leg, that doesn't mean that I can just, out of nowhere, start walking.
But that was not what I was saying, Krubs. Is that what you heard?
But the thing is that they have Haunter, they have Bjergsen, they have Doublelift. And I understand it's fair to say that they've been playing a bit slow, that they could have been more proactive in the early game. And yes, you do look at Sven. But if you want to point out holes, CA has been a massive hole, MMD has been a massive hole. The other teams definitely have them. And TSM still have the capability to carry from any lane.
Look, we all have holes.
It's gonna
Kids
come
table.
down. It's gotta come down to the games themselves. Finally, of course, we have the Flash Wolves, who are looking to bounce back after some crushing defeats last week.
Who wants to grab it?
All right. Oh, boy.
Ready? Don't all jump at once.
Okay, well, most of my predictions are actually hinging on the Flash Wolves not winning a game.
Okay.
So this is a team that just doesn't seem to know how to close, and the other teams have relied on, hey, we'll just go hit the late game, see what we can do. They didn't get a single kill against Misfits, and Karsa has not been up to the world standard performances that we expect out of him, and I just don't see how they're going to turn things around. If they do, I actually expect it to come out of a mistake from their opponents.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think the biggest problem with Flash Wolves right now are just individual performances and not finding that same consistency. You know, is Karsa going to be that world-class jungler that we know he is, or is he still having a rough time? Is SwordArT going to have that incredible Turret game, or is he going to have a really rough Lulu or Janna game? So if they're all firing on the same cylinders, we know that the Flash Wolves have it, but we just haven't seen that yet this tournament.
I mean, that said, they close on a game like they opened against TSM. They can ruin somebody's day for sure. Now, we've got a close race for quarterfinals in Group D, and I want to know who you guys will secure, who you guys rather think will secure the top 2 spots and why. So once again, down the line, who's it going to be?
Okay, so I've already kind of hinted at this over the course of the desk. I'm going to go with TSM and WE for a lot of the reasons that I've already demonstrated, which is WE haven't shown me the power that they had domestically throughout this tournament so far, and we have a lot of tape to go back and really watch them. I definitely think, though, that if they return to their LPL form, they can easily walk past this group because I think they have the capability to be the best team fighters. They're just not showing it right now for me. So TSM, you're coming out first.
Crumbs?
I have WES first because when everything is crazy, I think that the team that has been drafting a little bit better, a little bit safer, I count on them. But the second one is where we really get the doozy here. I have Misfits as second place, not TSM. I know, just hear me out. I think it's because of the schedule here for Misfits, because they first play against the Flash Wolves. So that means if they win, counting on Flash Wolves going 0-6, they go 3-1. Then TSM, if they lose to WE, which is the team that I have first, they're already in the deficit, so at least they would get a tiebreaker with TSM. They're on the hiding. No, I don't have.
Remind me never to go to Vegas with Crumbs. He's playing the schedule game. Kobe, who are you
I
thinking?
just want to point out first that all of the teams are playing all of the other teams. They all have the same schedule.
Yes.
The only thing that changes is the
Kobe,
order.
you can't
Yeah, the
argue
order,
the map.
right? The order, momentum, Kobe. That's everything.
Strength of schedule doesn't really play a part here. So before coming to Worlds, I was like 80% TSM first, WE second. I'm still going to say TSM first and WE second, but my confidence has dropped from 80% down to like 50% here, whether WE or TSM are going to get the first spot.
You shouldn't have watched the VODs, Kobe.
Specifically because Team WE, I was really a fan of Condi for a long time, and I feel like even though people have been like, oh yeah, everybody's going to look at those earlier VODs and Svenskeren, you know, they're going to coordinate with him better, they're not going to take these risks, and you know, they won't be playing against Shen every time, which was a big part of punishing him too. I feel like Condi is the type of guy that is going to be able to find those early kills, and the early game for TSM has really been where they've had the most trouble.
But the key word there is early game kills. And yes, I agree that Condi has shown that he can do that in the past. We haven't seen that recently of Condi. Did you watch his Ezreal game in play-ins? That was supposed to be the big pop-off moment. He was all over the board.
All righty, well, dissension on the desk. I love it. That means nothing is decided. We've got Misfits Gaming and the Flash Wolves facing off in the first game. Let's head over to Riv, Vedius, and Jat for picks and bans.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hello, everyone. I am Rivington Bizzle III, joined by Andy Vedius Day and Joshua Jat Leesman as we once again break open Group D to figure out what happens here in Week 2. We've had some long games, some short games, but ultimately I think people are looking to see if Flash Wolves can mix things up here.
Yeah, it's a big day. This is the only group where we didn't have a team go 3-1 in the first week.
Absolutely.
3-0.
Now to the players on stage, starting with the blue side, it is going to be Misfits Gaming. Alphari in the top lane, Maxlore in the jungle, PowerOfEvil in mid, Sama at bot lane, and IgNar as support.
Misfits 2-1 after the first week. On the other side of the rift, we have the Flash Wolves, who need to go 3-0 to have a chance of quarterfinals. MMD top lane, Karsa jungle, Maple mid, Betty in bot lane with SwordArT and Coke State.
We will have to see if Flash Wolves can somewhat be fanatics of League of Legends today, if they can really dig in and find those victories.
And it's all going to start with the very first match of the day as well, because if they lose here, they cannot make it out.
That's right.
It becomes impossible. So this is a very important game for Flash Wolves, and it could give Misfits the opportunity on the other side to claw ahead in this group right at the start of the day.
Yeah, and we have to remember the last time these teams met, it was a 46-minute match where Flash Wolves didn't get a single kill. But if you're looking to build off of something, if you are Flash Wolves, Maple has had a pretty good performance considering the circumstances. These are stats based off of all mid laners at Worlds, so KDA and kill participation are going to be low because they're losing their games and they had that kill this game. But he has the highest damage percentage, so he's definitely getting people in positions if they can get Betty to come in there and start cleaning up the kills.
And thinking back to the last time we did see these two teams play, it was Maple, who every time Misfits were grouping up and looking to force an objective, he was moving off onto a side lane. He was the one always answering every move that Misfits made, and he was the reason why Flash Wolves were able to draw that game out to such a long duration.
It plays even more a little bit in their favor that they are on that blue side, or sorry, that red side. They can get that counter pick for Maple. They can kind of give him that lane he wants.
And so much of this comes down to the draft, because if we look at the way the meta has evolved throughout the group stage, those were not the picks that Flash Wolves was prioritizing last week.
Right.
The game against Misfits, they had Vladimir mid with the Jinx AD carry. Those are one-off picks that no one else is paying attention to. So I want to see if they switch to what is more standard this far at the World Championship for this match against Misfits Gaming, who have been so surprisingly good in this group at 2-1.
And already we've seen both of the high priority Art and Sensor supports banned away in Lulu and Janna, and now you're looking at the next lot of supports, things like the Rakan, the Taric come to mind. These rise in priority because you still want to get that Art and Sensor from somewhere.
See what they have for the last ban here on the side of Flash Wolves. Could go for that bot lane. They're actually going to head towards the jungle with that Ezreal ban and Sejuani. Kind of pushes them back a little bit, but there's still quite a bit to grab on the board.
You would expect the early prioritization on the Xayah here from Misfits. It will give away the jungler in Gragas, but I think giving Hans Sama a comfortable AD carry, along with the risk of the Xayah Rakan, will force Flash Wolves into the Rakan pick, and then Misfits need to find some kind of answer to that support.
Yeah, there's also Jarvan, who's still on the table, and he is the third highest percentage pick ban champion at World behind Kalista and Sejuani. So picking the Xayah there is banking off of Hans Sama's strong performance they had in their last game last week against TSM, where he topped the charts for damage per minute. But they do end up giving over a lot. The main Art and Sensor users banned away in Janna and Lulu. You're still going to find a support that can use it, but Rakan is a clear number 3.
You grab the Gragas. Maxlore gets something he wants to play in the jungle, and Thresh locked in for IgNar.
They're
so
doing it.
initiation back into the bot lane for Misfits Gaming.
Finally, this could be the first time we see no unsensor in a game. IgNar was so well known during the regular season for his Thresh performance. He's a playmaker, he's a roamer. He likes to dominate on these kind of champions, and now he's going to get his hands on it against SwordArT's Rakan.
And it does, even before we see the rest of the composition, most likely put Misfits on a clock this game. Because the last game took them 46 minutes to close. The game against TSM went for 45 minutes. The loss against Team W was quick, so they have not been able to win fast. And Flash Wolves have put together some pretty good late game picks already.
We need to see now a LeBlanc ban from the side of Flash Wolves, because if you look at Misfits' composition, it's already directing towards play around the bottom lane. PowerOfEvil would love to get his hands on a roaming mid lane champion so he can influence that bot side of the map, and things like Talia and LeBlanc are the two main picks that come to mind.
Won't be that Orianna for sure. On the side of Misfits Gaming, 15 seconds left. Both teams using the full amount of time to discuss what's happening, what they see, and how they're going to play against it with their coaches on stage. And that hit towards Maple with the Lucian.
Also got to remember the Galio is available as well. The Lucian ban, oh my apologies, that was banned earlier on, my mistake. But the Lucian ban there from Misfits, showing respect over towards Maple. One of his most regularly played mid lane champions was the Corki. He did bring it out against Misfits last week. And I feel like that is the direction that they could be heading towards. And it's also one of those good roaming champions that if left up, Misfits might grab themselves.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see how the end of this draft phase plays out, because Misfits have brought so much engage with the Gragas and the Thresh, and they need to be able to find that. Will Flash Wolves try and stack a little bit more disengage? Maybe not with the Syndra ban already, things that can knock back any types of initiation for them. And is Flash Wolves comfortable playing slow? As a team that has had a hard time closing out games, specifically at the World Championship, both last year and this, it's going to be a tricky problem for them to solve.
The LeBlanc gets left up. The Malzahar we've been seeing a bit of. The Ryze also left up on side as well.
So Ryze has been used as a pick into LeBlanc, even when LeBlanc was at a much stronger point. If Maple decides to go for the Abyssal Mask build, it's very hard for LeBlanc to get burst threat, and you also are able to match a lot of the side lane pressure and prevent LeBlanc from collapsing before you. Not to mention, it's a signature pick from Maple. So I actually think that should have been a ban from Misfits instead of the Talia, or even more likely, instead of the Lucian.
I really like this Ryze pick from the side of Flash Wolves. Fascinated by what Misfits have in terms of an answer, because they've clearly come in prepared. They expected the Janna ban. They also banned away the Lulu themselves. They were prepared for this Thresh. So now they've got to be expecting some kind of an answer for the Ryze.
Or they just counterpick, right?
Yeah.
Because we were on the train of, wow, look at this early game for Misfits. Look at this aggressive bottom lane. They must want to play LeBlanc. And I think FlashWolves probably thought of something similar and said, we should preemptively block the LeBlanc. But now, since they locked in their mid laner early, it gives Misfits the chance to counterpick. And I think Cassiopeia is actually very good against Ryze. Outranges a lot of Ryze's abilities, can fairly easily take cleanse, can slither away because you get a bonus move speed within Cassiopeia spamming all her spells, and it can work in that lane.
We'll see what kind of tank FlashWolves can put towards that top lane now as they round out their ban, seeing a Cho'Gath on the side of Misfits Gaming, which means they can still go pretty late into the game. This Thresh now has a chance to sit behind some tanks, also get that initiation in as they get to the longer phases. Possibly that Maokai here for FlashWolves would be a safe pick, so the Shen could work.
Yeah, we've seen a fair bit of Shen into Cho'Gath. It has not been favorable that often, but also we haven't seen Maokai win that many matchups into Cho'Gath either, so I don't fault them for going with this pick if they're able to use it proactively. If you can Shen when your Rakan engages and combo it, it will work. But that has not been what FlashWolves have been able to do so far.
Really like this comp overall, though, from the FlashWolves. Think about the amount of engage tools they have. We saw yesterday or maybe even the day before, rather, from Longzhu, when you utilize the Jarvan and Shen, it can be an extremely strong initiation. It gets so hard to chunk through that front line, and then you also have another tank following up behind that's very quickly looking for that taunt. It's a very difficult engage to stop, but when you have Gragas and a Cho'Gath, those are two big, beefy front lines that Tristana's going to have to find his way as well.
So it seems like FlashWolves have kind of weathered the first storm, a pick and ban in their do-or-die situation. That can work in their favor. This is easily a win for them if they can come out early and come out strong. Misfits, however, a bit of a win streak here coming out of last week, and are going to use that momentum, knowing they just kept getting better and better to try and grab those victories again.
And this is a confident draft from Misfits. To go against the trend of an Ardent Sensor user as a support when every single game has had at least one Ardent Sensor on both sides shows so much confidence in IgNar's ability to win that lane and transition the lead throughout the map.
And IgNar is running Courage of the Colossus, so we're not going to see one of those interesting style shifts in terms of masteries, and he will be building the Ardent Sensor anyway. There should be no Ardent Sensor on this Misfits lineup.
Week 2, day 3, back into Group D, and we'll see how it plays out. Misfits Gaming versus FlashWolves, and we are about to be on to the Rift.
A reminder for the stakes of this game. FlashWolves, if they lose, they're out of contention of the quarterfinals. But if they win, they have the ability to start forcing tiebreakers, create a similar situation to what Fnatic did earlier in the week.
Yeah, it is very interesting the way that the standings have worked out unfavorably for FlashWolves, because if you compare them with Fnatic, both FlashWolves and Fnatic were 0-3 after the first week. But Fnatic was actually able to lose a game and then still force a three-way tiebreaker at 2-4 because of the way the group played out. But you only can get a three-way tie at 2-4 if there is an undefeated team in the group, which this group has none. So unfortunately for FlashWolves, due to the parity at the top of this group, 2-4 will not cut it. They have to go 3-3, which means winning every single one of their games to force a tiebreaker and try and make it out of this group.
And no question about it, I'm sure they realize they also have to kind of brush away any hesitation, any things that don't make them feel confident in here, which we've seen plaguing many teams, saying just didn't have the right time, the confidence to make that play. There is no chance for that here for the FlashWolves. Looking at starting inventories, we do have a bit more of the Door and Shield starts coming in, as we saw here in week 2, as opposed to all of the Relic starts, and pretty much just the same across the map for the other lanes.
IgNar deciding to go for the Ignite. I think that's fine in terms of trying to get ahead in terms of the lane phase, but it could be a bit of a risk not having that peel with the exhaust later on into the game, whereas Betty and SwordArT going for the pretty common these days defensive of barrier and peel.
Yeah, and we've seen these matchups actually play out a fair bit before everyone decided that the defensive lanes on both sides was the way to go, and that's why we started seeing the Relic Shield and the Cull starts. But there are ways in which the Thresh can win this lane. In fact, we saw a lot of Thresh in the LCK finals, even into Rakan in some situations. You can preempt some hooks to get Rakan when the engage is happening and still end up making some big plays, but your window is so small to actually make that work.
focus a little back and forth there. No autos towards Betty. They're able to trade on IgNar quite well, forcing one of those biscuits out. Refillables to biscuits on either side, just a choice of their summoners, or I'm sorry, masteries. And they get a little bit of control of the lane here as Flash Wolf's just waiting for it to push in.
Coming into this game, my eyes are going to be on both these junglers as well, because Karsa is one of the individuals that I feel for Flash Wolves really hasn't been able to properly step up. He's a guy that had that great synergy with Maple. He's a guy that was part of that duo legend that everyone was so scared of, and I feel like he hasn't had that level of impact on the world stage. But for Maxlore, he certainly has stepped up this world.
Yeah, and looking at Maxlore, he has ganked more in every successive game. The game against WE, he never really got anything going. They started just playing to win rather than playing not to lose. He's just going to gank everywhere, use all his spells, peaking at 41% jungle proximity, which is how the percentage of time he is near his teammates between 3 and 15 minutes in the early game, so, or rather in the first 15 minutes of the game, and it's higher and higher. This game, it needs to be that high actually for them to find success, because this isn't a farm 6 and have your lanes outscale style of game.
Well, already Karsa being able to find basically where Maxlore is at this point, knowing he's not on that side of the map. They also get a bit of vision down, but that doesn't mean Maxlore could still try to make some moves. Backing here, we'll see what his attention goes towards after he heads back out of base. Also a first back for a tier from PowerOfEvil as things start to get started in these lanes.
Wants to get that stacking as soon as he can. He was very pivotal in their win against TSM. We'll keep eyes on him and see if he's able to do it once more in this game. But also keep my eyes on that top lane matchup too, because you mentioned, Jack, earlier on how Shen often being picked into the Cho'Gath. Speaking to a few top laners from Europe, they often say that during the early game, Shen's ability to trade allows him to get those early advantages. So you can get the push, you can force some difficulties for the Cho'Gath, but once he gets his first back, once he gets a bit of armor under his belt, and he has a few extra ability level points in his abilities, then he has that pushing power. So Flash Wolves, they might want to try and capitalize on the fact that Alphari's a little weak this early in the game.
Yeah, and it is rather dangerous for Karsa to actually spend time ganking top lane. I mean, Alphari never got ganked for in the first week. Misfits completely abandoned him. He had 0.8% jungle proximity. So he wants to play towards bot side, and I don't think that's any mystery to Flash Wolves, but when Karsa does show up there, that just gives Maxlore the freedom to know a counter gank isn't even possible and more freely gank the bottom lanes. Even just look at the time Karsa spent up there, the vision control that Misfits got inside Flash Wolves jungle.
It's really ridiculous. It was that back PowerOfEvil came up and pushed the lane, and that was a mismatch with Maple. All these wards were just placed forward due to that, and a great job by PowerOfEvil keeping that lane in his favor.
You think they want to dive? Like, they're so ready to try and control that side of the jungle, and they're trying to push Karsa top lane. They say, yes, please, go gank Alphari, get away from us. But it will be tough for them to dive bottom once Shen hits 6.
We've got to remember as well, in the draft, Flash will save their top lane pick for the final rotation. They had the option between Maokai and the Shen. Which will land here?
Grab. Looks like SwordArt's going to be able to get out.
But yeah, going back to the point that they had the choice between Maokai and Shen, and they probably saw, I think Misfits is going to try and play around bot side, so picking the Shen means that around the level 6 mark, Flash Wolves at the very least will have someone that can immediately respond and try and shut down some of that pressure.
Maple now getting a roam on to see actually what happened down here when I went to back. Some vision. So this will be good for Flash Wolves to clear a bit of this out. Stop Misfits from feeling so comfortable to walking into their side of the jungle. We'll actually find Maxlore with a ward, so this helps Karsa out. He'll be top side, and they'll be able to work something out here.
Yeah, and we've been very excited in the early game. We've been very excited for this group because there were three teams at 2-1, and anything could happen. But this has also been a fairly slow matchup. Flash Wolves was unable to get a kill in their 46-minute game. Misfits got 12 kills, and at that point in the week, they even came under criticism for that win because they were too slow in turning their advantages into victory. So now that they're in the situation where they are heavily looking to play around the bottom side, you wonder if they can play fast enough. Their games have been actually quite slow during the group stage, and you wonder then as well, for Flash Wolves, if they're going to bank on having the Ardent Sense or Trist be the late game AD carry, Betty has to perform as well, something he hasn't done this group stage.
Now we can see from IgNar, rather than rushing the Ardent Sense, he's decided to prioritize, because he's not building an Ardent Sense, obviously, the Sightstone, which means that Misfits do have this vision advantage very early on into the game, and he's already looking for roams.
IgNar just guessing, but gives himself up for the moment. I mean, he can still build that Ardent Sensor. I mean, I'm just kidding. But the Ignite definitely wanting the power, wanting that initiation back onto IgNar, and they're already trying to utilize it. Just 7.5 minutes in, putting the wards they push forward to use and pressuring Flash Wolves.
Look at PowerOfEvil, he's coming in from the flank. There's TPs from both top laners.
Betty with some free shots over the wall, watching for the jump. Play back. That's Shen coming in. It's going to be a hit over onto Maxlore. Very, very low. Also on the bot side, IgNar has to flash over the wall, and looks like Misfits doesn't want everything about this just yet. They lose Maxlore and quite a few flashes.
And the Shen is so good in that situation. Sure, you find the hook onto Betty, but it's barrier, heal, Shen. So even if it's a 900 health Trist, you got a 200 damage barrier, a 200 point heal, and a 200 point shield coming in from Shen. So you're not killing him anytime soon. It takes too long, and Misfits end up falling.
And this was the pivot from Flash Wolves in the draft. Now Misfits, they want to utilize the early advantage they have. They try to make a play for the blue buff, but this ulti here from Maple, I thought he actually used it to get a flank behind, but they don't even need it because Misfits are funneled into this choke point. PowerOfEvil has to take the long way around before he can assist his team. If he was there, maybe the fight could have gone slightly more in their favor, but it ends up being Maxlore getting shut down, Karsa getting an early level 6, and Flash Wolves get their first kill against Misfits.
Yeah, and this actually isn't even a super new thing for Flash Wolves. Their problem has been closing out games. You can see first blood, first turret, or first dragon in 2 of their 3 games last week. This game, they got 2 of the 3 already, so that's now 3 out of 4 games where they have first blood as well as first turret.
They can set that pace, but can they keep that pace is what we question here. Towards the top side, 9 minutes. Obviously, Misfits going to try to get that pressure back on. A bit of a spike in gold here for Flash Wolves, and where do they move with it? Karsa already putting some of that to work onto the Dragon.
This is a little concerning, though, for Misfits, because we talked a lot about how there is an ardent sensor on the side of Flash Wolves, and there isn't for Misfits. They wanted to try and get their bot lane ahead in the early game, especially when you're running an Ignite Thresh. They were unable to do that. Flash Wolves now on track to get themselves that ardent sensor. The Infernal Drake going to be picked up by Flash Wolves too, and they're off to a fantastic early game start.
Yeah, the lanes have also swapped back. Flash Wolves has no more reason to be bottom lane, especially now that Misfits has gone up to the top lane. So the question will still remain here, actually, what can IgNar and Hansama do with that early Sightstone? Because they have the old Sightstone timing where they can go in and get deep vision. But the question is, with their deep vision, can they actually win a fight? And they need to be able to answer that question emphatically yes. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to make things happen. It's difficult to have early game aggression against a Shen.
Look how quick Misfits steps into the jungle. Flash Wolves collapses already 3 towards that top side. Maple was already hovering up, and they want to clear that vision out and win back on their red. Not wanting Misfits to snowball at all, as you said, with this early forward vision. Back to the top lane to clear. It looks like everything's calm for now.
You've also got to think about how these late game fights are going to look, because moving aside from the ardent sensor, Flash Wolves have a lot of good engage tools. You have Rakan with a Jarvan as well. You have a Shen ulti that can go on either one of them. You have a fair amount of mobility onto Betty, and you have the Maple ultimate that can set up for flanks. Flash Wolves have a number of ways to actually start fights off compared to Misfits, who are relying quite a lot on Maxlore or from a good hook from IgNar. So Flash Wolves getting this early lead are setting themselves up nicely for the fights later on in the game.
Karsa's also very strong right now. Warrior enchant completed. They know that Misfits is still flashless based on the last fight.
Abyssal Mass just completed on PowerOfEvil. He'll be coming out of lane. No call to that, which means it looks like Flash Wolves is happy with playing it calm. Looks like they wanted a counter more of what Maxlore would have done on the top side than have Karsa go right in the first place there. Maple pushes up, and they just continue to stack those tiers.
Yeah, I gotta say, Misfits has had very good vision control this game. They have a ton of wards inside the jungle and Flash Wolves, but Karsa has done a very good job keeping the vision down. I've now seen 2 control wards placed right on the spot to clear Sightstone wards, and just now you've seen 2 of the control wards he's cleared away. So yes, Misfits is getting the vision, but then they're not catching anyone while they're trying to clear the vision. So I think Flash Wolves is actually playing around that control very well.
Karsa once again into the jungle. Can get that help from MMD if he needs, so they have the right to be a little reckless in this positioning. Get some nice vision control towards the bot side, but that alerts Misfits of his presence.
You can see a few pings towards the top side from Flash Wolves. Shen has just pushed in the bottom wave, so he has a window with which he can use that ulti. And Flash Wolves were debating whether or not they want to try and force it, but Misfits showing an adequate amount of respect. Even Alphari backing away from the lane so that he can TP, but he is used to not having his jungler around. He has a bit of vision on the bot side, but he's also cautious of a potential gank down.
Yeah, what's interesting is I don't like Alphari backing away from Shen if he's able to win a 1v1 duel, because you can stop the Shen from joining fights, and that's the best you're going to get with that Cho'Gath in the side lane. So whenever he backs away, it's not like Shen's also going to be able to match in a bigger way and then have teleport advantage on you.
A lot of coverage around the mid here. SwordArT possibly getting caught out, but they don't engage just yet, allowing Maxlore to be the front line on that. We'll see if they can get positioning onto Flash Wolves right now. Alphari was actually rotated quite far up and would not have had to teleport there.
Now, Maple did push in mids. Flash Wolves are using this as an opportunity to reclaim vision through the river. No wards are being invested on bot side because there is no Drake and there's no tower for Flash Wolves to take, and they are the ones with the pressure right now. BF completed Unsensor as well on the support and both the missile masks from either side, so both Flash Wolves and Misfits. Their mid lane is feeling relatively strong at this point, but you have to imagine that Misfits, they want to try and make a play happen relatively soon, and as this Rift Herald kicks off, maybe this is the window they were looking for.
A little bit of a move from IgNar. He'll try to get the first bit of vision that we see over the wall.
This would be an opportunity for Misfits to try and collab. Flash Wolves is forcing this one.
No vision of the top laners in bot for themselves, so that's going to be a back from one. There's a Stand United coming in from MMD. Alphari teleporting in as well, and that's going to be the first one down onto Karsa, means the smite is down. And Flash Wolves are going to look to get out of this one. Alphari flashes forward to shout it out, and MMD still makes it over the wall. Maxlore wondering if he should too. Slows it in, looking to get PowerOfEvil something, and they are going to be able to sink their fangs in. SwordArT doing everything he can to keep MMD alive, and PowerOfEvil just short on mana resources to pick that up.
Misfits finally find that early game fight that they were looking for. They get one kill. They'll be able to pick up the Rift Herald, and Flash Wolves walk away with the skin of their teeth. You'd think that Flash Wolves in that kind of a situation would be happy to take the fight, but I feel like the setup, the reaction was not quite the way that they wanted, because they sent all 4 members into the face of PowerOfEvil, who was lying in wait to land that multi-man ulti.
Yeah, I mean, Flash Wolves was using it as a bait for a fight based on the location of Maple's Realm Warp. You're thinking when they're in that pit, and I initially see the Realm Warp, they're just going to take it out and say, ah, they collapsed on us. No, they took people in behind the team, but that's what ended up getting them blown up. So, failed aggression from Flash Wolves, which has been the story of their 0-3 start.
Now that Misfits have been able to pick up that Rift Herald, they can answer back with one of the turrets, but let's see exactly how this fight happens. So,
yeah, watch the Realm Warp here. Maple is like, all right, we're in, but it's onto a Miasma, right? And a Cassiopeia ultimate, so Karsa doesn't get to use his spells in this fight, dies with Cataclysm up. It would have been better to brute force an initiation onto PowerOfEvil than let them know where you're going to stand for a Miasma.
And think about the engaged tools we were just talking about. You have Rakan, you have Jarvan, you have Shen ulti. Shen ult had to be used defensively. Rakan was still trapped in the pit. And the moment that Betty took that portal, he had to jump out because he realized, oh no, I'm stuck between a Xayah and a Cassio. This is not where I want to be.
And here's the usage of the Rift Herald. Alphari got a feast stack off of it. Shen's probably not going to be able to defend this turret in full, and that's the answer back from Misfits. They have the top turret very low. This one extremely low as well, should go down.
Alphari as well, holding a pretty consistent top lane throughout the wins for Misfits here. Staving off depth, staving off pressure, but also being able to pick up solo gold, get that Rift Herald in now as the team gives him more resources. It looks like they're going to be pretty big coming into this mid game.
Now, because there are still 2 towers in the top lane, it's likely that the AD carries will stay here for the time being. But with Ocean Drake being spawned, if PowerOfEvil can get a push at mid, or Maple can do the same, Ocean Drake could be a point of contention for both these teams.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of contention around vision this game as well, thanks to the earlier Sightstone than we're used to seeing from IgNar. But Flash Wolves has done a good job of clearing it out. So there's more wards in the game. They've also cleared more wards than any team has in the first 15 minutes at group stage. As we mentioned, Karsa finding so many with control wards. Now they're looking to make it engage.
Whoa. Almost hits him, got the buffer W. Still misses the cast, flashing from Maxlore, but this means pressure on the top side. We see Karsa rotating just off the side of PowerOfEvil, but it doesn't look like Misfits will fully commit.
That turret is so low, so the upside of that gank was very high from Maxlore, but if you time that rocket jump properly on a body slam flash and predict everything perfectly, you can get away. There, Betty actually timed it in a way that would jump away from the flash body slam. So really impressive jump away there by Betty.
Exactly that. And the ultimate not quite in time from Maxlore. Now he doesn't have his flash. One of the initiation tools is unavailable for Maxlore, but TPs are coming up. Flash Wolves want to try and take this tower down before Misfits can find some kind of answer.
Doesn't look like they're going to find too much pressure. Bot lane being farmed out from Alphari. Those teleports are down on the side of Misfits, but that doesn't mean MSD is going to come in for a fight here. Hits onto IgNar, SwordArt's back, tries to get the charm down, is now Hansama delivering the damage in. MMD does put himself up to the top side, and now Alphari gets the push in the bot lane. We'll have to get that teleport back if Flash Wolves want to stop it.
And that's just a big misplay there from SwordArT, not respecting IgNar enough to just walk away when the minions were still alive. He ends up getting hooked up. He forces a flash from Karsa. He has to use his own heal. MMD is forced to ulti, and this means that Flash Wolves now lose a lot of pressure, even though they're still looking to try and take this top tier 1.
Yeah, it's a bunch burned, and you wonder who's going to get the payoff at the end of it. MMD does have that second global in the teleport, so he's going to be able to match that big minion wave. And they did force the supports back to lane, so in a way they're still trying to keep this pressure up, really wanting to get that turret. It's just so difficult for them to do.
You can see the patience they had kind of going into this replay. Said, don't aggress too much from Hansama IgNar. Let me be the first. Still fast fingers from Betty, and he gets himself out safely. They know what to do next time. Just wait for that jump and try to make the play after, possibly. It's always hard, though. You see a lot of Triss getting out. Who do you go for first?
Looking at some of the extra items that have been picked up as well. IgNar now sitting on Moby Boots. We talked in draft about how he, as an individual, is that playmaker. He earned a lot of respect in the European LCS for his Thresh performances and his ability to land great hooks. He's now bringing it out in the World's Group stages, and he's going to stick to his playstyle of trying to find those opportunities.
And these are both supports that kind of make their mark by being playmakers. SwordArT as well played Blitzcrank in the LMS final, but this is a situation where, because of the priority in the draft phase, like, both guys want to be playmakers, but because Flash Wolves picked the playmaker that is much stronger in the meta, it's just a better pick in a lot of ways. Like, Rakan can make the engages the Thresh can make, and IgNar has to outplay to that next level if he wants to get the same value out of the Thresh that SwordArT can get out of the Rakan.
Coming up on 20 minutes, 15 seconds for that Baron. See about 630 stacks to 530 on the tiers of the mid laners, so getting very close to that Seraph's Embrace and a little extra power for themselves. Still one kill on the map for both teams. They've been working around each other to get these objectives and structures, but most of that objective control right now. Flash Wolves with the Dragon and the Herald over to Misfits.
I wonder how much topside control around Baron matters against a Cassiopeia. Both these teams have actually struggled a bit with Baron control. Misfits had 2 Barons taken away in their win against TSM. Flash Wolves also needs to be able to control Baron in order to close games, but for now, it's not that big of a threat as they take Drake and have time to reset.
Forward pink ward for Flash Wolves behind red, possibly making a play later as they deliver damage over to IgNar. Still very squishy Sightstone start build. Talisman of Ascension just finished for more of that mobility play if he wants to speed up the team. They have a Righteous Glory behind Nat for Cho'Gath for Alphari to get right into the fight. They're going to try something mid.
Yeah, oh, they get Betty kind of cleared away, though. Another ultimate down for Maxlore.
It may have been an ultimate from Maxlore into a Petrifying Gaze. Kind of would have been pretty sweet. You don't really have to, time to turn.
We're now looking at Flash Wolves start to split up the map. With both towers gone up top and bot, Maple moves off to a side lane. There isn't that much vision around the top side, so we can't overextend that much, but after seeing 5 members mid, he feels relatively safe for the time being. Whereas Misfits, they're going to be forced to answer. Cassie off on the side lane is fine, but it's going to take so much longer for the champion to join the team should a fight happen to break out compared to a Ryze.
The ward wars in this game. I mean, Flash Wolves actually had to buy quite a few pink wards early just to get past these Sightstones, get past being able to clear everything out. So I wonder what the items would actually look like if they hadn't spent hundreds on that. But Misfits doing a great job at keeping that vision up, causing Flash Wolves to have to spend a little extra gold there. So you see the items Infinity Edge almost being finished up for Betty. Be a big item spike for him. Both teams are really okay with just kind of allowing their mid laners to farm right now and let each other build up.
So we haven't actually seen a huge amount of action in the early game. We talked about how Maxlore his jungle proximity has been improving from game to game and how he's much more involved in the early game. And while he's made a few gank attempts in this game, his involvement has not been that high. And the same can be said for Karsa. He tried to make a few plays himself, but the focus of both teams not really been trying to snowball, which means that we're going to be looking once again another one of those games where big fights are going to be the big determinant. And what you can say about Flash Wolves is they are still pretty good team fights.
Yeah, and how squishy is Karsa going to be in these fights? Because he did go with Warrior Jarvan. He's going Black Cleaver second. He's going to have to try and burst someone down. He's not going to be that big Cinderhawk tank at the end of it, which also lets me kind of know the Flash Wolves want to get going fairly soon.
One of my favorite type of positionings, up and down on that mid lane. It means somebody is getting in a fight, and Maxlore finds himself off on the side, going down alone.
Great pick there from Maple, utilizing the simple ward that was over the wall to lock Maxlore up, allow the follow-up from SwordArT, and get Flash Wolves their second kill of the game.
Yeah, this makes them lose control over Baron that they had worked pretty hard to get. I wonder if Flash Wolves will keep pathing up through the river and getting full control, or if they're going to try and work around mid lane as a higher priority, because they will spot these breadcrumbs of control wards all the way up if they walk that way.
Yep, getting all that vision. Maple will be able to cleanly and safely farm out this top lane as long as it's not cleared too fast by Misfits. But Flash Wolves grab a little bit of Baron posture as well as that control for Maple here to get more farm under his belt. Little moves, but ever so slowly as Flash Wolves finding that ground that we wondered if they would.
Yeah, I think so much of this game is going to revolve around Baron, and also the second Infernal Drake, because that has some pretty big late game implications as far as who will outscale. Because even though compositionally having the late game Trist would probably be better than the Xayah, especially with the added attack speed from the Ardent Sensor that IgNar can't apply to Hansama, but you still got to play well. Like, you still have to be able to execute, not get hit by Cho'Gath Ruptures, not get knocked back by Maxlore, not get killed by PowerOfEvil. There's so many things that AD carries are tested on here at the World Championship.
Easier said than done.
And if you don't have that top tier AD carry, you do not succeed at this Worlds.
And Hansama, he definitely showed what he was capable of in that game versus TSM. He went deathless in that match, and he has the comfort pick of Xayah once more. But you talked a little bit about the Baron and how it's going to be so pivotal. Misfits as a team have praised themselves for how well they play around the Baron, how well they use that objective, and it was a big part of their win against TSM once they reached the later stages. But look at this Baron taking team Cassio, Cho'Gath, Xayah in the late game with 3 items. They will crush that extremely quickly as well, and Flash Wolves, one misstep, one bad ward could result in a very quick objective going in the favor of Misfits.
Looking at items again, Adaptive Helm on the side of MMD. Warmock's finished up onto Alphari before he gets that stone plate. He is going to be gigantic already. He's already got a few stacks under his belt. None just yet on champions, 2 minions, and the 1 epic monster for himself.
Cassio shows top. This is probably mid-turf for Flash Wolves.
Go for a moment, shots from Betty, they take it down. Easily control or walk up into that top side of the jungle to make sure it's theirs.
You may ask, like, why did PowerOfEvil show top when they could have been defending mid? But that was the payoff from a long set of plays. All started from the kill on Maxlore, because that got them top lane river control. That allowed them to push both side lanes with Shen and Ryze. And if Misfits only then defended mid with 5 people, they would be giving up so much overall experience. So they were matching the waves in the side. That's how Flash Wolves bought that 5 seconds of time in the mid lane to crack that turret.
Possible initiation, Hansama right in the middle of it, instantly deleted by Maple. They're playing the Bushwhack game, and they found Misfits wandering around in the jungle. This is where Flash Wolves catapult themselves into the lead, and they're going for Baron.
And now the jungler is dead for Misfits. There is no smite available. Misfits' best hope is for an Alphari steal, and they're not going to go for it.
That was the extension of that cycle as well. When you get mid lane priority from killing the turret, when you don't have vision in the river. Also, Misfits was just lulled because these are the only 4 kills that Flash Wolves has against them in the entire group stage. They didn't even kill him that one time before they played, so they make the exact right play, killing the jungler and the carry.
Black Cleaver finished up. A few more things. Warden's Mail for MMD. Flash Wolves are now going to be able to start to itemize a little bit better. Hopefully get those fights, because the long fights seem like they will play out in favor of Misfits with the amount of tank they have, the amount of ability of that front line. quick hits in and out seem to be Flash Wolves' goal right now, and they'll get another dragon because of it.
Remember what this means for Flash Wolves. They need to win all 3 of their games today, and they're off to a good start. No vision in the river for Misfits. They end up getting punished.
And it's SwordArT making that play from Fog of War, the lead on the initiation into the Jarvan combo with the Shen ultimate to make it so he is untouchable. Very nearly get that 3rd kill as well as IgNar escaped with a sliver.
Quickly into Baron, which means Flash Wolves have even more control over the map. This makes Maple strong for the top lane, and they can start to work off the ball on that, figuring out where else they would like to fight Misfits. Whoa, Misfits says your own medicine almost works.
The same play doesn't work though when there's nothing to gain by going there. There's no Baron to pull them into the river.
That's a great point.
Flash Wolves showed the respect. Instead, they played towards the lanes. The 1-3-1 can now be properly set up with the Baron buff, but we've seen Flash Wolves in this position before. We know they know how to get these leads, but can they close out the game? Because so far through groups, that has been their biggest issue.
Karsa, protection. They actually have a line of protection. It's not just Maple and Karsa. It's also slow rotation from SwordArT. Betty could be there in a few as well. And these guys are in threes of crowd motion. They're never letting each other too far away. Maple's ready to push this one in. PowerOfEvil getting pressured as the bot lane face-to-face teleports down for MMD, and he's waiting on that stand united. A lot of damage from PowerOfEvil could push him off the turret as it goes down below half, just with Flash Wolves in and out again. Not fully committing to anything, but getting a slight lead.
Yeah, moving in between lanes, catching Misfits in recall patterns. They got enough poke right there, so that's 80% of the top lane turret and all of the mid lane turret.
So methodical right now by Flash Wolves, not greeding too much. 3 turrets across the board. You hardly ever see 1, 2, 3 of the second tier turrets fall like that.
And this is when a 1-3-1 works with Baron buff. If the other team can't engage on your 3, they have Ryze and Shen spread. Cassio is spread as well. It is on IgNar and Maxlore to actually force the right kind of fight, which they have not been able to do all game long.
And remember, in the draft, Misfits made the decision. We will give up the Rakan by going for the early Xayah. We think we can win this 2 versus 2. We think we can get advantages in the bottom lane. Misfits failed to do so. They have not been able to execute, and now it's SwordArT that has found those great plays and have put Flash Wolves in this position to potentially get their first win of World.
Oh, very dangerous situation for a dead Maple. He goes down immediately, and the pressure breaks now for Flash Wolves.
That's how you try and stop the 1-3-1. You have to kill at least one side of it with everyone. They lose a turret is the cost of it, but it will stall the push.
I mean, Flash Wolves can be pretty happy, though, because they got 4 towers in exchange for 1 death. Maple's even 3-1, so he's still pretty strong. He's like, okay, I lost some Dark Seal stacks, but that's not the end of the world here. He used his cleanse, he still has his flash. Misfits get a small thing back, but his Flash Wolves still in control.
And this is what Flash Wolves need to see in a do-or-die situation. They're done after this if they lose. This is also what they need to show the other teams in their group to strike a little fear in the hearts of those teams. Be that little mistake from Maple. Great control over the game, and they are using that advantage people were looking for.
Yeah, for as much as we talk about the other teams in this group all being a 2-1, it's very well Flash Wolves that could decide who advances based on who they beat. This play one more time, it was just a good miasma, while Maxlore and IgNar were waiting in Fog of War to get that kill. If that happens before the other 3 turrets go down, it becomes a kill for a turret, which is a much more acceptable trade, but that was the 4th turret Flash Wolves got during that Baron power play.
Flash Wolves now depleting resources in the jungle, able to basically live on the side of Misfits for the time being, and with 3 Infernal Drakes spawning, they may be able to get that 3rd one. We won't see any more on the map. Flash Wolves has had great objective control, losing only the Rift Herald this game, and it really hasn't given Misfits that strong of an advantage.
Misfits doing their best right now to reclaim some of the vision, but their entire jungle pretty much belongs to Flash Wolves. Every time Misfits moves up, it ends up getting cleared out. And Flash Wolves are forcing Misfits into darkness. IgNar yet to demonstrate his proficiency on the champion. We've really seen nothing from him aside from some of the top lane shenanigans that he was able to make happen. And Misfits in a very dire situation, 2 to 4 in kills and very heavily behind in gold.
That Talisman of Ascension, still a possibility if Flash Wolves misstep one more time. We saw it use their Maple for a moment. You see the discrepancies there. 1,600 waiting to be spent by Maple as they've had that 1-3-1, a lot of solo gold in the side lane, just about 1.5 thousand gold up over PowerOfEvil at this point.
Yeah, as far as stalling is concerned, it is relatively difficult to dive on top of Cassiopeia, but the struggle and where this game could end up being finally decided is with this Infernal and Baron buff being up in 1 minute, respectively, because if Flash Wolves controls both, that would be a triple Infernal with a Baron buff in a 1-3-1 scenario, which makes it extremely hard for Misfits to counter all of those things at once, and Flash Wolves has the control that they can probably pull that off. It's all on IgNar and Maxlore to find those initiations when Flash Wolves are trying to make the setup for these plays happen.
Yep, already that bottom side of a jungle looking like a light bright for Flash Wolves. Everywhere is warded, and only one cleared out because they replaced their own pink ward towards the top side of the map. That dragon coming up in 20 seconds, and they're still able to hover top side and say, we'll take blue too, and then be back down on the bot side if you're gonna pressure for that. 30 for Baron, so they still have to be careful.
One of the fun stats that we had for Misfits last week was that if they were ever in a deficit during the regular season of the ULCS, they had a 3-win, 11-loss record. This is a team that is not very good at playing from behind. They're now in a situation where they are pretty far behind, and we'll have to see if their growth has been enough to be able to find a pretty significant comeback.
Yeah, but with the current game state, Flash Wolves are large favorites. This is the game that they should close out. And remember, Flash Wolves is in a position where they must go 3-0 today. So this is the type of start you would like to see. We had questions about their draft. They're picking the meta champions just like this, and they're executing pretty well with them.
And they have 3 Infernal Drakes now. That bush is blind. Alphari going to be the one to face Xayah.
Yeah, they're also trying to prep the waves for this Baron, so they've given up a lot of Baron control, which is rather dangerous. Not only do they not have Baron control, they don't have mid lane priority right now, so a little bit dicey this prep by Flash Wolves.
You can tell how much PowerOfEvil wants this fight. Sorcery of Elixir already popped as soon as they were going up towards that mid turret. They want to be able to use this extra damage.
Yeah, and with the far side totem used, Misfits can see they don't have anything left. Misfits could actually have started the Baron and could try to burst it down. They do not. It's scouted with the flag. Flash Wolves know it's safe.
Look at Shen though. MMD still pushing in the bottom lane. Misfits, they're going to be forced to make a move, and here they go.
He has that Titanic. He's going to be able to crush down a bit of damage. Backs off the wave, so he can help.
has to fight
Karsa over the wall. 14-14 in smite, but it is about that feast, and it goes to Alphari. The fight ensues, and IgNar and everyone heading towards the top side for SwordArT. Alphari just taking everything in the middle as Karsa has already fallen, and they're looking for more crowd control on the side of Flash Wolves, but are now running away from Misfits. 5 strong into the into the blue area, as now Misfits heads out with Baron.
It's exactly what Misfits have to do, but it's also what Flash Wolves needed to respect. Don't prep that way for so long. You're against the Cassio Cho'Gath. This has always been a possibility in this game.
Yep.
Great shot calling by Misfits to force it, and they're absolutely back in this game.
And we were talking about how Misfits, they know how to play around this Baron. It's how they were able to beat TSM. They've been able to secure it. A lot of gold comes back into their pockets. They've been able to get 2 mid towers down, and Flash Wolves, is this the same issues that plagued them last week? Are they failing to close out once again by not respecting the collapse from Misfits?
The fact that they didn't go now, like 2 seconds before now, when Baron is 1700, the Smite Feast actually chained by the Gragas and the Cho'Gath, the 1700 health burst, the best we've really seen in Team Duo Worlds, and then they just instantly killed Karsa.
And so much praise towards Alphari, just sitting on the front line and forcing Betty and Maple out of the fight. That allowed PowerOfEvil to flash out of the pit, put himself in a good position, and just start dishing out the damage. They were able to shut down Karsa, but the gold still in the favor of Flash Wolves, still 3 Infernal Drakes. All Misfits have done is equalize and got their foot back in the door.
There was also a disgusting miasma from PowerOfEvil and made SwordArT have to reach, have to flash. His ult was basically useless by the time he did get into the fight. So many good things happening there, and as we said, would Flash Wolves crumble under that pressure?
Yeah, because you have to ask, why are you not taking Baron control with your triple Infernal Drake?
Yes.
Why are you letting yourself be put in a position where you can be pushed around like that? Now they're trying to fight a team with Baron.
Maxlore misses out on that. Hook misses, but the Flays are in. MSF following up with that crowd control as they keep going through. Alphari looking for a few more hits with that Righteous Glory on, but cannot get the movement speed into the ramp.
Flash on
Slow
Maple.
effect. IgNar just on the outside. What's the hook? Just misses the battle dance of SwordArT.
But now Misfits, they're just zoning as many members of Flash Wolves away as they siege onto this base turret.
Does MMD try and engage? He'd have to go. Doesn't even have flash.
Karsa looking from the side. Shots onto Maxlore. Hits onto IgNar now. They know where the HP is low, but SwordArT dies immediately. 45 seconds on the clock for Misfits to stay.
Alphari had a perfectly timed silence onto SwordArT there for that initiation.
An entire game in their favor up until now. Like we said, Flash Wolves do or die. So each moment that Misfits in their base is just beads of sweat on Flash Wolves' forehead. They have to wipe it off. They have to brush off all of these problems and push back even harder. SwordArT in 20 seconds, and Misfits is making quick work of Flash Wolf's side of the map.
Rightly identified there, Riv. SwordArT still dead. Misfits still have the Baron. They have 5 members. They could be looking for their second inhibitor of the game.
But Flash Wolves can't engage right now. Their engage is dead. MMD has no flash. Karsa has built Squishy. So if anyone goes in, it would just be a lost fight. They have to concede the second inhibitor, and now Misfits has reached even gold with Flash Wolves. 37 minutes, 30 seconds in when they were on the brink of losing the game.
Flash Wolves with 3 Infernal Drakes, an exposed inhibitor in the middle lane. They were playing the 1-through-1 beautifully, and now the team that are on the back foot.
And watching this one more time, SwordArT is trying to make the initiation. Hook is down, but he just can't make it in with his quickness. He gets silenced, he's on a miasma, like, you can't go straight forward into Cassiopeia. You have to find a flanking angle. SwordArT does not do it for the second fight in a row.
And it seems like there's a few things that can do that. You see the Jarvan picked up, and then the Rakan, you think one's going to be before the other. Not SwordArT kind of going in thinking he would be the first. Misfits is ready for this, and an almost 6,000 gold power play, as you said, Jat, brings them almost back to even. That 700 gold difference this far in basically means nothing. Top turret's gonna go down. They'll get that anyways here as they push on to the final inhibitor. Sub 40 minutes here, just after being on their own side of the map for the majority of the game.
Yeah, and Betty has to be more effective in these fights, plain and simple. He has the 4 crit items already finished up. He has the QSS and he has the Ardent Sensor support, but he hasn't been able to get Alphari down. He has to respect so much the engage of Maxlore and the rest of the Misfits team, and they're really not able to threaten that front line in a substantial way right now.
Now Misfits, they realize they don't want to commit to the top tower. They'd much rather take away the Elder Drake. In the event that they lose a fight and Flash Wolves get that Elder Drake away from them, then Misfits are the ones in this dire situation, so instead they move towards it, they set a vision. Now they're looking for a pick, but Flash Wolves should be able to see this.
But can they walk away? At this point, with the 2 inhibs down, Misfits need to just wait this one out before they can get the Elder.
Look at the bottom wave. Someone from Flash Wolves has to go and answer it. Misfits, they can start off this objective. They're in the same situation, but look at how the gold has swung now back in the favor of Misfits. Bring it to even.
With that miasma down, if Flash Wolves wanted to go, this would be their opportunity. Watch for SwordArT with the Shen ult. He gets hooked though.
Gotta be careful. He goes down immediately. SwordArT still doesn't get the quickness in. It's gonna be Karsa trying to stop Misfits from getting into that fight, but they are still going. MMD is trying to clear out what he can on that bot side, so Misfits can't push in, but it is inevitable at this point.
It is Misfits that are always getting the fights on their terms. We're not seeing the engages from SwordArT anymore. We're not seeing the Shen ulti onto Karsa anymore. And now Flash Wolves with their support dead. And Misfits with a great flash.
Oh, Flayed on the rocket jump. That's what he's been looking to do all game. IgNar coming out with the Thresh pick. That's 3 down for Misfits. Or I'm sorry, for Flash Wolves as Misfits try to close the door. 8-4, 40 minutes in. Maple looking to run out of the base. He says walk this way, but Misfits doesn't even have to worry about it. The Nexus turrets are falling, and so are Flash Wolves' hope as Misfits close the door on the Flash Wolves World's run. The quickness once again in from SwordArT, the double kill for PowerOfEvil. And Misfits take down Flash Wolves.
So far behind in the mid-game was Misfits, but they have the shot calling and the playmaking when it mattered most. PowerOfEvil and IgNar stuffed SwordArT again and again. A combination of miasmas and death sentences, and they just destroyed Flash Wolves in team fight after team fight to end that game.
And we talked about this Baron taking power of Misfits, combined with the ability that Misfits have of just playing around the Baron. It all comes together. They secure that objective and they ride that momentum to victory. They do not slow down, and they never give Flash Wolves an opportunity to set the fights up the way they want them.
Yeah, the story continues for Misfits right here.
Yep.
Going up against an 0-3 team right here, wanting to start the day off on the right foot. It didn't seem like it was there when they opt out of Ardent Sensor bottom lane, when they lose the Baron, when they lose their middle inhibitor turret. But they persevere once again. That moves them to 3-1. It eliminates Flash Wolves, but it also showed us that Flash Wolves is capable of getting leads on people. They just haven't been able to finish. So they're still going to be a threat to the other teams, and it's a threat that Misfits has survived, moving to 3-1.
And now you think of the pressure that that puts on WE and TSM, because the winner of that matchup will join Misfits at 3-1, but then a team falls behind at 2-2, and this group just gets all the more dynamic.
For Misfits as well, continuing a bit of that win streak. They do have a few games to wait now as they play into that 4th game of the day, so hopefully they can keep this momentum going. But like you guys said, Flash Wolves can now mix up this group, and whether they won there or not, I'm sure the teams are sweating a little bit more.
I mean, Flash Wolves has got to be devastated after that one. They knew they had to come in and be perfect today. They're not. They're out.
But it's just so disappointing that the same issues plague them. Their inability to close out just seems to be something that the Flash Wolves just can't overcome.
Well, we'll get a little bit more insight on that one as Misfits Gaming take the win. We'll check in with Dash in the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Riv. Misfits, man, they muscled a victory out of that one as the Flash Wolves, unfortunately, their journey ends here in terms of their hopes for the quarterfinals.
The Flash Wolves permanently friend zoned, really. They get the advantage every single time, but they just can never close. They have an inability to seal the deal. Just for some reason, this team cannot put it together. You have Shen, you have the Stand United, you have a Ryze, you have globals in the bot side. And on top of that, the Misfits opted out of an Ardent Sensor support. That should be an even easier indication. Just dive this bot lane 24/7. Never happened.
So Ardent Sensor support is one thing, and that's a huge advantage, you know, in the meta right now, simply because if you look at the stats on this item, the amount of combat effectiveness, the gold value that you get from it is obscene. However, what's more than gold value of some stats is playmaking, right? If you cannot pull off the initiation, even when you're ahead, if you can't utilize your Fog of War advantage, if you can't utilize your map advantage, like there's so many things where SwordArT got stuffed maybe 7 times in this entire game here with a lot of the initiations, and IgNar on the Thresh was landing quite a few hooks. You can make up gold value differences with big plays.
And the thing about Rakan, I was talking to Fischio about this earlier, and he was explaining that Rakan actually doesn't get to use the Ardent Sensor at the beginning of a lot of fights, because he's usually engaging the fights, and then he shields out, and that's when the Ardent Sensor will really take effect. So if he's immediately just blowing up, there's actually a lot of instances where it's not Ardent Sensor versus non-Ardent Sensor. It's, there goes the Rakan, he didn't get it off, and now it's just AD carry versus AD carry.
So while I think that the Thresh has a lot of value here, especially against what the Flash Wolves drafted, you good against Jarvan, good against Shen, good against Tristana, Rakan as well. I think it's a little bit too hipster to work against TSM and WE, so this is a time they can take this pick, feel confident in it, but I don't think this Thresh is going to work again, especially when we see how the Misfits won based on Flash Wolves' mistakes.
But to Kobe's point, I want to use our first replay to kind of illustrate that. 13 minutes around the Rift Herald, we see a misfire from the Flash Wolves. In
They're doing Rift Herald. Here comes the Ryze ultimate, teleports behind you, nothing personal, kid. And immediately, like, how is this going to work? You're teleporting into a Cassiopeia? 100 times out of 100.
We all had real-life question mark pings going down on the analyst desk after this one. It did not seem like even the Flash Wolves themselves were all on board with that. SwordArT, the Rakan, the initiator, was the one to nope out of the Ryze ultimate. They placed the Ryze ultimate and immediately all turned towards Cassiopeia. So they're on Miaza. They all 3 of them get like stunned up, and there are just so many things where that was a moment where they had this lead, and it was the reason why people do not have a lot of faith in Flash Wolves as the game goes on.
Right, 1K lead with an Infernal Drake. At one point, they end up with 3 Infernals, so still very much in a position to win the game, utilizing those, globals as you talked about. But we've got to jump ahead to that 34-minute Baron call by the Misfits, because ultimately it is what won them the game. And this replay will be brought to you by Acer Predator.
And the thing is even though they don't have an Ardent Sensor by opting into the Thresh, getting that playmaking support, they still have an incredible Baron burning composition. They've got the Cassiopeia, they have the Cho'Gath, and so it just makes it such an easy and decisive call, because the thing is while Flash Wolves are continuously trying to 5v5 just fight Misfits, they could also just play the side lanes. They have the Ryze, they have the Shen, so there was more versatile options in terms of how they wanted to play the map. They just simply didn't opt into it.
They kept trying to team fight them when the Flash Wolves clearly were a side lane global composition. You use your globals for that, not for team fighting. And so you look at the gold graph, even though the Flash Wolves seemed like they were in control. It was the Misfits that kept that gold relatively even up until that Baron point where they just blew the game wide open.
To me, though, this game just continues to illustrate why Flash Wolves can still be a very scary team in this group, right? They've still managed to build early leads against many teams, and if just one time they manage to close it out, right? If the chips fall in their favor in one team fight and they take a game off of either WE or TSM, that could spell disaster for one of those teams in terms of making it towards the quarterfinals.
Just seems like a curse. They curse to win, like you curse to lose, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. It's not a curse you want, definitely, here on the world stage. Misfits Gaming started the day with a win. For more, let's head over to Shox and hear from their jungler.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Maxlore after Misfits get yet another win, this time over the Flash Wolves again, and no Ardent Sensor support, not being able to get that snowball going early. It wasn't looking too good. What did it come down to? How did you guys turn it around in the end, Maxlore?
Honestly, I felt like we were not being proactive at all in this game. We were like really scared. It was kind of annoying in game to be playing a tank, and we were playing really scared. I was trying some eager ultimates, but Tristana's just too broken. So against Gragas, I'm joking. They were pretty bad. I could have been better. So we just weren't working as a team really well, and then like we started like sharpening up at like 25 minutes, and then we just went to Baron and did the UOL, and we won the game.
Did the UOL, I guess it worked out for you. You throw the group into even more disarray, I would say. Flash Wolves is now completely eliminated, so it's becoming a 3-horse race. Last week, not that many people might have believed in Misfits. Now they really have to. So can you tell me about your own expectations going forward today?
I think if we play better early game and play more proactively, we can make it to the quarterfinals. If we play the same as we did at the beginning of this game, it's going to be really rough, and we will rely on like mid-late game shot calling or like team fighting or something like this way more than we should. Like if we play an early game composition, we should be able to execute it, right? So we don't want to be restricted in draft to how we play. And yeah, hopefully we can put out the wins for Europe.
Well, hopefully so. Finally, a lot of bets going on with you. The one that I want to talk about is the one for the chicken nuggets. So I mean, can't you just go get some chicken nuggets? Why would you have to go that far to get them from your coach?
It tastes more beautiful when someone buys you something and gives it to you. It's like when you make your own food, right? If I just go and buy my chicken nuggets, it's like, an average day at the office, right? But my coach buying me 100 chicken nuggets, like, that's motivation right there. That's going to make me try hard, So congrats to him for finding my motivation.
Fantastic way to look at life and friendships and all that. Really inspirational. Chicken nuggets. Thank you so much, Maxlore. Misfits with another win on the books. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Team WE versus TSM. Don't go anywhere.
Okay, so listen up. Last week we played really good. No fears slogan, but today we just say scream fighting, okay? We'll win this game for sure.
Over on to Maxlore, very, very low. Also on the bot side, IgNar has to flash over the wall, and looks like Misfits doesn't want everything about this just yet.
We should fight this, I stand the ball, Jarvan.
Awesome initiation, Hansam right in the middle of it, instantly deleted by Maple.
Jarvan's flanking left side.
I'll cover Jarvan. Watch Shen. Fighting. I'll cover Jarvan. Rakan.
Played on the rocket jump. That's what he's been looking to do all game. IgNar coming out with the Thresh pick. That's 3 down for Misfits. Or I'm sorry, for Flash Wolves as Misfits closed the door on the Flash Wolves World's run.